Hey, what's up everybody? Richard Gaming Guy here. So we have some massive emulation gaming news this week. So as you guys probably already learned, the Citra emulator for 3DS emulation and the Yuzu emulator for Nintendo Switch emulation have been completely discontinued. There's no more support for these. They're no longer available for download. They're no longer being developed or having any advancements made on them whatsoever. That doesn't mean that if you already have these emulators in effect somewhere that they're going to disintegrate into thin air. They're not, but you won't have any further support to them. There's no more upgrades, advancements, anything of that nature. So if you don't have them currently, you're not going to be able to get them. So what brought all this about? Well, about a week ago, Nintendo opened up a lawsuit against Yuzu, citing that they believe the emulator was used to facilitate piracy on a massive scale. So basically, what that translates to is Yuzu was giving people a free option to enjoy Nintendo Switch games, which, you know, effectively is what it was doing. It was not distributing ROMs, BIOS files, prod keys, dev keys, or anything like that. But you would bring all these over to Yuzu to create basically a free Nintendo Switch console. So if you chose to go that route, you didn't need to buy a Nintendo Switch console from Nintendo or the games from Nintendo. So yes, it definitely was impacting Nintendo's bottom line at the end of the day. And where I think emulation is always controversial for copyright and trademark infringement arguments, I think that when you integrate a modern day console into the mix like this, it just makes it so much more controversial than if we're talking about, you know, a console from 20 years ago where you can't readily get those games, you know, at your fingertips. You don't have a current console for, you know, that supports them. They're no longer making those games. So in that case, emulation still can be controversial. I think that it has a lot of benefits and it works to preserve these games. A lot of these companies don't care about the old games anymore. They don't offer those old games anymore unless it's part of a massive franchise. So it leaves you with really one option, and it is to emulate these games unless you go out and you roll the dice on a old school console that may not work or old school games that may not work. And these also have no effect on the companies. You know, Xbox, for example, is not benefiting if you go out and you buy an original Xbox game and an original Xbox console. You'd have to buy those secondhand. None of that money gets back to the company. So I have some examples here, actually. I have two Xbox original games here. Xbox was one of my favorite, if not my favorite, retro console. So this game, for example, ESPN College Hoops 2K5 NCAA basketball game right here. This game, if you wanted to play this today, you would have two options. You could emulate this, which, yes, is controversial, or you can go out and you can pick up an original Xbox console and the game, which I have right here. $150 probably for the console. The game's not super expensive, maybe $5 for the game. So, you know, you're spending about $155 and you're still rolling the dice that the game works and the console works to give you a good experience. Or you can emulate it, and you can emulate it for free with your PC. Download the Xbox emulator, download the ROM for this game, bring it over, and depending on which option you go with, one's somewhat controversial, one's not, but neither of which gives a dime to Microsoft at the end of the day. But here's where it gets interesting. This game right here, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. Love this game. This is a little bit different. It's a 21-year-old game. You could go two routes with this, but you also have one additional option as well. So you can emulate this for free. You can go and do the same that you would do for College Hoops 2K5. You can get the original console, track down the original game, roll the dice that everything's going to work and give you a good experience. But Xbox still actually offers this game. You can go on the Xbox store currently, download this to an Xbox Series S or Xbox Series X, and you could play that game today for $9.99. So this is a little bit different because Microsoft has a way of making money with this. So they might care more about you emulating this game than they would about this, where they know they're not going to make any money. With this one, they could still make $9.99 for every copy of this that they sell online on their store. So you can see two sides to everything with retro stuff. But when it comes down to modern day games, stuff for Nintendo Switch, which is still the most current Nintendo console, still those games are being produced. Anything that offers a free option with those is, you know, you're just magnifying the controversy. And if we think back to the last major Super Mario video game release, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, this was actually leaked about a week and a half before the game was actually launched by Nintendo. Somebody leaked the ROM. So then everybody went out and they started to download that ROM, bring it over to Yuzu, and play the game for free. And they were actually leaking a lot of the game content online as well. So this pissed Nintendo off, and I believe this is what made them file the lawsuit, and this is what really, lit a fire under their ass to get Yuzu shut down. And that's exactly what happened in the end, because Yuzu does not want to incur, extensive legal fees to battle this battle that there's no guarantee that they're going to win in the end. You could argue that they are not providing the ROMs, the prod keys, the dev keys, or the BIOS files. Therefore, is Yuzu actually doing anything illegal? Probably not, but they still aren't they still don't have a strong leg to stand on with this, because what else is the Yuzu emulator used for? And I've seen people compare that in the past you've been able to buy pipes, for example, and they used to put on the pipes for tobacco use only. And that basically is saying that the companies making these pipes were making them for tobacco use, so therefore you couldn't use them for smoking marijuana, as an example. And now it's a little bit different, because marijuana has been decriminalized in most places, legalized in some places as well, so it's not as controversial as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. But with that whole stance of let's label these pipes as for tobacco use only, that gave the companies another leg to stand on. Well, we put out this product and we didn't intend for people to smoke marijuana or illegal drugs with it. Therefore, if they chose to do that on their own, that was their choice and we're not liable for that. That makes sense in that situation. With the Yuzu emulator, what are you doing with it if you're not emulating Switch games? That's literally the only use for it. It's not like you can use it with other games. It's not like you can use it to, improve the quality of games that you own. You can't use it to, play any other games from any other companies. It's literally got one use. And even though they're not distributing the prod keys, dev keys, BIOS files, or ROMs, you still have to integrate those into the mix to effectively use it. So it just doesn't check out that you could take that same stance here as with the pipes back in the day. It's a good try, though, but it just, in my opinion, doesn't pan out. So unfortunately, I kind of saw this coming, especially when we went back and we see what ended up happening with the Super Mario Brothers Wonder release, where it got leaked early. People went online, they were able to obtain the ROM that was leaked, bring it over to Yuzu, and basically play it, a week and a half early before it was actually officially released. And they released, the video content, that went along with it from the gameplays. And it was just a massive mess. And I'm sure that Nintendo saw significant losses in sales because of that leak. And all of that was, made possible because of Yuzu at the end of the day. So I get where they're coming from here. I'm not surprised by this issue, but there's a lot of good with emulation too. It does preserve games that you would anyways have no other way of enjoying. Like, anybody that's followed the channel here knows I'm a massive fan of Gauntlet Legends. It's my all-time favorite game. Well, if I wanted to play Gauntlet Legends in 2024, how would I do that? I have literally one option, well, two options, as we had with the Xbox game here. I could track down one of the original consoles, which would be PlayStation 1, Sega Dreamcast, or N64. Get the original console, get the original game, none of which benefits any of the companies, out there today in any way, shape, or form financially. And then I would have to roll the dice that the experience was good with the game as well as the console. Or I can emulate it for free on, honestly, a $50 PC. And it would play all the way through. In fact, that's what got me into emulation 5-6 years ago. I got a Raspberry Pi. I downloaded Gauntlet Legends. It was the only game I had on my first Raspberry Pi. I put it on there and I played through it. I could save it and load in wherever I wanted to on there. It was a great experience. But while it is controversial, it was not financially hurting anybody. Whereas Nintendo Switch games, I definitely can see, how it would financially impact a company like Nintendo. So that's what makes this lawsuit possible. That's in the end why, the Yuzu emulator has been shut down. And we may even see other emulators have these issues as well. We saw Nintendo in the past year or so pushed back on the Dolphin emulator as well for reasons very similar to Nintendo Switch. But I don't think they pushed back as hard because they are also no longer making Nintendo Wii games or GameCube games. So at the end of the day, it's very similar to the case here with this Xbox game as well as with Gauntlet Legends, where they have no money coming in from those titles anyway. So is it really impacting their bottom line? Not really. Is it worth their time? Maybe. Who knows? Depends how hard they want to push against emulation. We know at this point they are not a fan of emulation in any way, shape, or form, but there's no denying that there is a home for emulation in preserving old games, whether they're a Nintendo game or from somebody else. So let me know what you guys think about this entire situation with Yuzu and Citra being shut down. Let me know what you guys think about emulation, and whether you are a fan of emulation or not. And do you see, the reasons why Nintendo is trying to get stuff like this shut down? I see it. I see it for Nintendo Switch because, yes, it impacts them. But for other stuff, I think that emulation is 100% on point and necessary in today's world to preserve old games that otherwise would just, cease to exist anymore, other than in our memories. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. You guys know the deal, though. Thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed the content today. And, of course, hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.